This song has a personal story behind it for me. When I was a kid, when I was, I think, 12 years old, my great-grandmother passed away. And she had actually been the only one of my great-grandparents still living when I was born. And then she died when I was 12, around there, 11 or 12. And the grown-ups were cleaning out her house, you know. And I guess because I had already shown a little musical aptitude by that time, one of them decided to pass this little instrument down to me that was in her house. It was called a Magnus chord organ, and it was a reed organ, and it didn't have any electronics. It had an electrical powered fan or blower, or possibly a vacuum. I'm not sure if it sucked the air or blew the air, but it was like just a big melodica that had this blower hooked up to it, so that you didn't have to blow it with your own breath. You would turn the switch on the side, and it would wind up, and you could hear the you could hear the fan go whoosh. It would make all this blowing air noise, and then over on the left there was a double row of buttons. There was white buttons on the top, black buttons underneath that. The white buttons were major chords. There was only 6 of them, 6 major chords, and then 6 minor chords: B flat, F, C, G, D, and A. So you couldn't play in every key. You could only play. You could play 3 chord songs in like F, C, G, and D. I think, you know, that sounds right. And you know, you could play 2 chord songs in B flat or C. Well, whatever, you know, B flat. If you want to play in B flat, you're restricted to a 2 chord song. You couldn't play a 5 chord. I mean, you know, you couldn't play a 4 chord in B flat, but you know, and you would just push the button down, and it would play this chord, bah, and then you play the melody on the keyboard with your right hand. And this is what mine looked like. It didn't have its own stand like this one does. It was just, you just would put it on a table or whatever. We had a little table that we put it on, or it may have been a table that belonged to my great-grandmother. I'm not sure, but it wasn't fitted for the organ. It wasn't specifically made for it. So this one you could just pick up and move. You could pick it up and carry it around, move it in different places. And you can see that it's got numbers for each key. It's got 3 octaves. And it's got a little plus sign up in the corner of every key that has a black key next to it, like C and D. And the music looked like this. And the white circles with black letters in them meant major chords. So this is all major chords here. And then numbers for the notes in case you can't read music. So you could just play by the numbers. And each book, it came with several books. Each book had this at the beginning of the book, the first page. This would show you, there's the major chords and the minor chords, black with white letters. And it would tell you how to play it. You know, push down the chords and play it. And a little beginning of Mary Had a Little Lamb to practice with there. And she had 3 or 4 books that went along with this organ, and they were all full of old songs like Man on the Flying Trapeze and Flow Gently Sweet Afton, Beautiful Dreamer, a whole bunch of old songs like that. And when I was 12 years old, I learned to play all these songs on that organ, and eventually I started singing them. And they didn't have all the lyrics, but usually they would just have the first stanza and the chorus. But I learned to play them. Let's see, was there another one? Oh yeah, I Dream of Jeannie with the Light Brown Hair. That's another one that I played a lot. I dream of Jeannie with the light brown hair, something like that. It's been a long time since I've heard that one. They made several different models. This is one that's even smaller. It's only a 2 octave, and as you can see, it's only got white buttons, which means no major chords. It just had the 6 I mean, no minor chords. It only had the 6 major chords, so I guess you couldn't play anything with minor chords in it with this one. And there was much bigger models like this also, which has a foot pedal volume control. That reminds me, these didn't have a volume control. They were just as loud as however hard the fan blew, and they were pretty loud. I'm pretty sure my parents were annoyed with me sometimes because you could hear it through the whole house. There was no escaping it. And of course there was no headphone jack or anything like that because there was no electric sound on it. It was just the air blowing through the reeds, just like a harmonica or a melodica. And this one wouldn't have it either. You can see a little bump right there. That's the switch. It was a rotary switch. You turn it, and it would come on. And so this one may even have a speaker. This area here might be a speaker. I don't know, but you can see it's still only got 6 white and 6 black. So you had 6 major chords and 6 minor chords. This is a 3-octave model also. But it's got a nice real wood cabinet instead of plastic like the little ones. And then it's got these switches here which probably change the tone a little. And these letters G, D, A, and E that are glued to it, I'm pretty sure that was just put on by whoever owned it, and somebody who owned it in the past. I don't think that was a standard deal. And that's probably the switch to turn it on right there. So so I learned to play Man on the Flying Trapeze when I was 12 years old, and then I began singing it because that's what I did. So this is a Canadian version that I found. It doesn't say who did the arrangement, but it was published by Canadian Music Sales in Toronto. And this one has the melody is much more like what I was used to. It's almost exactly the same as the arrangement in that old organ book, and I used it so I wouldn't have to learn a new melody. But this is from the Tin Pan Alley era. That'd be a good book for this month, a collection of famous waltzes. And there's another version, an American one, published by Calumet, arranged by Nick Maniloff. All the arrangements I've seen from Calumet Music are Nick Maniloff arrangements. And I don't know anything about him, but from what I've seen of these arrangements, it looks like he would change the melody quite a bit so that this company could copyright it. You can see it says copyright 1935. You know, they copyrighted this arrangement. They couldn't copyright the original song, but it's so different. The melody is so different from the original, or even from that Canadian version, that it'd be like learning a whole new song. Now the original was from written in 1867 or 68. I've seen different places saying different years, but and somehow this one has different information on the cover sheet than it does on the music itself, but it says by Gaston Lyle, but that's incorrect. From what I read, he was the first person to arrange it, but he did not write it. It was written by George Leybourne, which is got the correct information here, and then this arrangement is by Alfred Lee. Maybe this cover sheet went with different music than this, I'm not sure. And this melody is quite different from the one that I used also, and quite different from the Calumet version. And it's got 5 stanzas. I left the second stanza out and did only 4 stanzas. It's got the extra stanzas down here at the bottom. But the second stanza goes, this young man by name was Signor Bonaslang, tall, big, and handsome, as well made as Chang. Where'er he appeared, the hall loudly rang with ovation from all people there. He'd smile from the bar on the people below, and one night he smiled on my love. She winked back at him, and she shouted bravo as he hung by his nose up above. Purloined. Let's see. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's go back to the Canadian version. Uh, the first stanza, the organ book had only the first stanza in the chorus, and some of the words were different. Let's see. It goes, once I was happy, but now I'm forlorn like an old coat that is tattered and torn. Those are the same. Left in this wide world to fret and to mourn. It didn't say weep, it said fret. Betrayed by a maid in her teens. The organ book said betrayed by a girl in her teens. No maid. And now this girl I loved, she was handsome and I tried all knew her to please, but I never could please her 1/4. It was a little bit different melody there. It would go, never could please her 1/4 so well as the man on the flying trapeze. That's how the organ book went. And then it didn't have the last chorus. It only had the chorus that most everybody knows. He'd float through the air with the greatest ease. But the end, and my love, he has pearl. Yeah, I was used to singing, and my love, he has purloined away. Except that's what it says here, but it said stolen in the organ book. And my love, he has stolen away. It had the arrangement that I was used to singing when I was a kid had a lot more dotted quarter notes in it than this one did, which seems to work better, I think, because it gives more of the feeling of a trapeze swinging, especially if you go, and my love, he has purloined away on the high notes, because that when I was a kid, I always thought that gave the impression of like the trapeze swings up, and then it pauses for just a second at the highest point of the swing before it goes back down. So I always thought that high note being a little bit longer, a dotted quarter note, sounded better than just a regular quarter note, like all the rest of them, and it made it more of an impression of the trapeze swinging up and then swinging back down, swinging like that. You know what I mean? So. I think that's all I can think of to say about it. I don't have this organ anymore. Eventually wore it out. The fan stopped blowing. It just got thrown away, and my parents bought me a fancy Kimball electronic organ with all kinds of different instrument sounds and a big, like a 4-octave double keyboard. You could play the chords with a tempo setting, you know. I remember it had like foxtrot and swing and waltz and rumba and samba and cool things like that. And you would play those on the bottom keyboard and play the melody on the top keyboard. And then over here there was instrument settings. I had flute, violin, and marimba and stuff. And then it even had bass pedals. So if you really wanted to, I never got good enough to do it, but if you wanted to, you could play bass line with your feet, just like a real organ. And it had a volume pedal, of course, because it was electronic. It wasn't strictly electric like this old Magnus was. And I got newer books with that new organ too, so I was able to play some more contemporary songs, and I figured some out that weren't in the book. Figured out how to play some songs like "Take Me Home, Country Roads" and "On Top of the World, Looking Down on Creation, and the Only Explanation I Can Find." That wasn't in the book, but I figured out how to play it. Figured out all the chords by ear, and my family was always really impressed that I was able to do that. And now I just do that kind of thing for fun. Well, it was for fun back then too. So this song is like a trip down memory lane for me. And Grammy's old organ. Maybe I should see if I can find one. The one I had, it had this brown plastic like this, but they came in different colors. Like this one's more, well, it's brown. There was some black ones also, and I think there was some white ones and some red ones. I'm not sure. I wouldn't want this one. I would want one that you could play minor chords on. It's a chord down there. And found a little video of somebody playing one. I'll stick that link somewhere in here where you can go see somebody play it. And the switch on his is really loud. It's crazy. It didn't sound that loud on mine. It was just a little click, and then the fan would whoosh. So that's all about the Magnus chord organ and how I got introduced to old music, even though most of the music that I did was even older than Tin Pan Alley, from back in the 1800s, like Stephen Foster with Beautiful Dreamer, and whoever wrote Flow Gently Sweet Afton, and all those old songs like this one, and wow, I wonder whatever happened to those old books too, because I don't have them anymore either. Thank you very much.